Are you tired of showing up to auditions feeling unprepared and scrambling to find the right song? In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to build your ultimate audition rep book. Plus, I'm going to give you a free download of the category list for my audition rep that I use as a musical theater performer and what I guide my students and clients with. You can click below down the description box, get your copy for free. This is going to make your life so much easier. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley Espinosa. I have an MFA in musical theater. I was a professor in musical theater for almost a decade, and I've been a professional working actress for over 20 years. And now I'm here to help you build your musical theater career with confidence and clarity. And today we are talking about your audition rep book. So let's get started. Building a complete audition repertoire book for musical theater has really shifted the past 4 or 5 years because the industry has shifted. The way that we audition has shifted. So I've included all of these categories and full breakdowns, and I want to dive in each one with you step by step. I want to be very clear starting out with this video. I'm talking about your audition rep book, not the book that you take into your auditions. This is my audition book. Like, this is my actual right now audition book. She is like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. That's it. This rep book, it is super thick if you have it printed out, because all of these songs are going to be the base hub that you're going to use to pull into your audition book when you need them and to update and shift them out as you get new callbacks, as you learn new material, as maybe you're assigned new material with your voice teacher. Even now, my voice teacher is assigning me new material and I can constantly shift it out and replace when I find a new one. Let's start off with our first category, which is jazz standards. We're talking about musicals with George Gershwin music, Cole Porter, Irving Berlin. Also, any song or musical that is written in the pastiche of jazz in the same time period. Think about musicals like Thoroughly Modern Millie. Those are written in the pastiche of that genre that we had during the jazz age. And you probably are going to need a couple of songs for this category and for the categories as we move forward. And you do want to have contrasting songs, and that can be a ballad and an uptempo, but it could also be the different types of a character. It could be comedic and dramatic. It could be something that is a little bit more pattery, something that has more vocal line and melody. It really just depends on what is going to fit you best, again, for the roles in the shows that you are going to play. The next category you need to have in your audition rep book is going to be early dramatic musicals. You could also consider these early book musicals, but we're talking about musicals written in the 1940s through the 1950s, around that time period. Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein, Lerner and Loewe, Frank Lesser. You're looking for songs from these styles of musicals written by composers, and really those that were written and produced and performed in the 1940s through the 1950s. And again, this may be 2 to 4 songs just in this category. You need options, you need contrasting ones. The next category we have in this audition rep book list is pre-contemporary. We're talking about the time period between the 1960s and really the 1980s. These musicals were still written in the very similar style that we saw in early dramatic musicals with those book musicals. Same type of dramatic musical line, but we're starting to see a shift in the genre of musical theater. And that's really how we are essentially splitting up these categories, so that when you go to an audition and the audition is a musical that is written in the 70s, then you can ask yourself first, let me go to my pre-contemporary and see what I have that's in the style. And then also let me go into my 70s folk, the other contemporary styles that we're going to get below, and see if something else fits it. We're giving you options, but we're separating them by genre. You can typically think of musicals written by Kander and Ebb, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Stephen Schwartz, Ahrens and Flaherty, Martin Charnin, and Charles Strauss, those types of musicals between roughly the 60s through the 70s. We are still considering a category of Stephen Sondheim, really essentially because his musicals are very, very different than any other musical. Now, most of the time, many of us are not auditioning for Sondheim very often. It's a kind of a rare occasion, but we do still have a category listed in here, and I want you to think of something very different for this category. It's not just musicals that are by Stephen Sondheim, right? We have the typical ones, Assassins, A Little Night Music, Sunny in the Park with George, Into the Woods, yes, yes, yes. But I also want you to think of in this category other artists and songs that are in the style of Stephen Sondheim. that you could take into an audition. Look into Jason Robert Brown, look into Adam Gettle. But I also want you to think about like some of Janine Tesori's music from even like musicals like Fun Home are in a similar patter style or melodic line that could really work for you, again, if it fits the kind of roles that you want to play, the stories you want to tell, and showcases your skills as both a singer and an actor. Then this category also starts to shift open a little bit more and give you the option of maybe you are going to an audition for an Adam Gettle musical and you want to pull something from this category that is very similar in style. That might be also another kind of open window that you hadn't thought of with just this one category that bridges more than just Sondheim musicals. All right, now we are getting into the biggest category of all. This is where some people kind of go a little confused, but stick with me because there are a lot of options and you're going to need to find which one is right for you. This is why I keep going back and saying you have to create this audition rep book in the way that it works best for you, because some of these categories you might not need, and that's okay. All right, so we have contemporary with many different subcategories. Contemporary musical theater, we are really talking about around the 1990s to present day. Really, we're talking about something around, you know, maybe Rent-ish is one of the big pivotal points people think of when they think contemporary. But really, the 1990s, we're going to stay right in that vague kind of area to present day. First subcategory of contemporary is contemporary rock. We're talking about musicals like American Idiot, Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson, Jagged Little Pill, musicals that you would go in for. So if you're not going to go in for those musicals, then you don't need this category. But I'm assuming you probably do because these are really where we are going now as an industry. We're seeing these happen quite often. And we want to think about songs from the radio. This is where we're going to start to go into a lot of options that you probably haven't thought of before. You can pull songs from musicals for this, absolutely 100%. But I want you to also think about pulling songs for this category from the radio. And if you play an instrument, absolutely 100%, you can accompany yourself with piano or guitar absolutely for these songs as well. I want you to also dive into options that work for you that are styles like grunge, emo, metal, and how they fit into the musicals during this time period that you really resonate with. Shows that you would audition for, that you have auditioned for, and start to pick and choose a couple of different songs that are, again, contrasting in style, but that are going to be very laser focused for musicals in this contemporary rock category. Again, you're going to have to listen to a lot of music on the radio to find songs and artists and bands that really fit these styles of musicals. Next subcategory of contemporary is contemporary pop. So we're talking about musicals like Dear Evan Hansen and Juliet, the Britney Spears musical that was recently done, Six the musical, Mean Girls the musical, which is starting to lean into that different style of pop. But pop, there are many different styles. So let me describe a couple of them to you in, again, subcategory of a subcategory. But you're going to have to find what works best for you. So again, think about what musicals that you want to audition for, that you are auditioning for in this category, and start to find songs that really fit that style. One option you have is Latin pop. So we're talking about songs that you could pull for auditions that are by Selena, Gloria Estefan, Ricky Martin, Mark Anthony, Jennifer Lopez. And then you could use those for auditions. The next category is R&B. We're talking about Beyonce, Lauryn Hill, the Fugees, Bruno Mars. If that style is your jam, dig into those songs and those artists and see if there's anything that really resonates with you that would be a great audition song. Then we have another category of this, which is really hip hop. We're talking Nicki Minaj, Jay-Z, Mary J. Blige. And then we also have gospel. Again, where do you fit in these types of shows, and what songs do you need? And it may be multiple ones. Stick with me, you're gonna get it as we continue on, but we're talking about contemporary folk in this category. Musicals like Alice by Heart, Spring Awakening, Once, Waitress. You're not really gonna take many times a song from a musical for a lot of these musicals. You're gonna take a song from the radio into these auditions. So start going through and looking at artists in this time period, but artists that are very contemporary folk in style, and seeing what would fit. If we talk about the musical Waitress, who wrote the music to Waitress? go see what else she wrote. That's what I mean as an example. If we look at musicals, even like Spring Awakening and Alice by Heart, we're talking about Duncan Sheik and Stephen Sater. What other music did they write for the radio that's not in a musical that you could pull? Next category we have is country bluegrass. We're talking about musicals like Bright Star, Big River. You really want to think about taking a song from the radio into these types of auditions. So go to the radio, start listening to country, bluegrass singers and artists and see which ones resonate with you that are again in the style of the shows that you would do in this category. You can have some from an artist from the radio, and then you could also have some from a musical as well. So you'll have options when you go to an audition. The next subcategory we have of contemporary is 70s, folk, and disco. For the folk side of this, we're really talking about musicals like Godspell, Beautiful, Pippin. And then for the opposing side, the disco side of this, we're talking about Saturday Night Fever, Xanadu, Mamma Mia, the Donna Summer musical, the Cher Show. See where I'm starting to go with this? How the categories are starting to shift your mindset. What would you sing for the Cher Show? What would you sing for Mamma Mia? It probably wouldn't be a song from the musical. It would probably be a song from the radio. Now, it could be from the musical. This is a gray area. You have to make the best decision for you. But what can you pull from this time period in the 70s of artists that were writing music, folk and disco, that start to feel like Xanadu, that start to feel like Saturday Night Fever, that start to feel like Beautiful? Carole King, go back to her music. What else did she write? Who else was she emulating to that time period? Or who was emulating her during that time period that you could pull that gives the feel and vibe of that musical for your audition? The next subcategory we have of contemporary is early rock and roll and Motown. When we talk about Motown musicals, we're talking about the Temptations, the Supremes, Jackson 5, Smokey Robinson. That's the style we're talking about. So dig into those artists. If these are the types of shows that you would be doing, then see what you can find in the radio that again fits you, your style, your vibe. If we're talking about early rock and roll, we're talking about rockabilly, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash. There are musicals that are written in the style and then written as a jukebox musical for these artists. So if you vibe with those types of shows, you need a song in that style, not from a musical. The next subcategory we have of this category, early rock and roll and Motown, is doo-wop. Frankie Valli, the Shirelles, artists that were creating music during this time period that really fit those styles of musicals that are in the doo-wop fashion. The next subcategory of this is 1960s pop. Promises, Promises. We're talking about Connie Francis as an example. Any artist in that time period might be interesting if you are auditioning for those types of musicals. Moving on to the next category of contemporary still, we have another subcategory, which is contemporary musical theater. This is the category that most people have the most of, and then they start to hear everything I've said prior to this moment and they're like, oh, I get it. And I hope you're getting to that point as well. If you are, let me know down in the comments below if this is resonating with you. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up so I know this is working for you. Contemporary musical theater, probably one of the easier ones to really think about. So we're talking about musicals that are both dramatic and comedic. So you're going to need, again, contrasting options in this category. As always, again, we're talking about everything from like the 1990s-ish to now, but musicals that you would go in for that you would want a song from a musical, like anything Mel Brooks, The Producers, Young Frankenstein. You probably might want something from a musical. Could be from anything we've talked about prior to this. That's an option. But we want to have a group of songs that are contrasting, not only just in tempo, but also in style, in feel, in storytelling, in vocal abilities. So probably, again, we're talking, it could be 2 to 6 songs in this one category that really span contemporary musical theater that fits you. And then the last category that we have in contemporary, the subcategory is contemporary legit. We're talking about musicals like The Scarlet Pimpernel, Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, Sunset Boulevard, these musicals that we really do need a style and a song that is not pop, it is not rock, it's not written with any of that flavor, but it really is this more legit vocal line in style and in vocal abilities. Really leaning into that musical operetta, if you will. So you could have a song from a musical, of course. You could also start to pull in as an option, again, if this is right for you, you could pull in options from operettas, something maybe even from Gilbert and Sullivan. For those very rare occasions that maybe you will go to an opera audition, they happen. Not very often, but they do happen. But if that is your jam and your vibe, then you could start to pull in those and add them to this category as well. Again, always making sure that we're having a couple of different variations in style, in tempo, in vocal abilities, in vibe, and feel. I turned this into a digital audition rep book. All of my songs are in a folder. They are organized in categories, and it makes it easy to work on them on my iPad and pull them for my voice lessons and my coaching sessions. And then when I'm ready to print it out and add it into my actual audition book and take it into an audition, then I print it out and I put it into my audition book. So that way you have this magical hub of songs that you can say, okay, I have an audition. This is what they're asking for in the breakdown. Let me go back to my main list, which again, you can download this in the description box below for free and start to add your songs in as a template. And then I can say, okay, what do I have? Let me check it out. This musical is this musical. Let me see what I have in the style of that, what works the best to showcase the character, to showcase the vocal range, that also hits on what they're asking me to do in the audition room. Then I pull those songs and other songs similar to it, and I put it in my book with different contrasting options. And this is what I take into the room. Not this big, huge book. This is your main rep book that's going to feed into your audition book that really doesn't need to be more than 6 to 8 songs at a time for every audition that you're going to in person. And I'm just reminding you that most of the auditions we do now are online. So eventually, I would say that you want to get these all on tape as well, because if you've been following my channel and following the work that I do, I'm always encouraging you to make sure that you have your digital audition book, which is just as important, if not more now, than your in-person printed audition book. And if you want help with that, I've got tons of videos. I'll link them down in the description box below, and you can learn more about how I advise you to create those. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these categories, and I'll see you in the next video.